Hi, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm excited to bring you a look at iOS 16 from an accessibility perspective. There's lots of videos out there talking about all the changes that are going to be coming up with iOS 16, and there's a couple of them that talk about accessibility, but I really wanted to go over some of the changes and do some demonstrations for you guys showing how certain things are more accessible, particularly to blind and visually impaired people, and how we're still struggling with a couple of things. So, before I get started, let's talk about which devices iOS 16 will be supported on and which it won't. So essentially, iPhone 8 and later will support iOS 16. So that's good. It does mean that certain older devices aren't going to be able to receive the update, but that isn't particularly surprising given how there were already issues with older models running iOS 15, so it's not a huge surprise that Apple has ended support for some of these devices. It does mean that, you can go a good 5 years back and your device will still be supported. So that's good news. We also don't have an exact release date for iOS 16, but we're probably looking at sometime in September. Realistically, Apple are going to unveil new devices, particularly iPhones, I would think, in September, and so we would all imagine that iOS 16 will come with those. Though Apple is very secretive, and so nobody has a clue for sure. But given the fact that we've got developer and public betas of iOS 16, it's definitely coming soon, and Apple have confirmed it will be this autumn. So I'm going to go with September probably. There are lots of changes that have been made to iOS 16 and lots of new features, which are really, really exciting. Now, I'm going to go over some of the more general features first and then look at accessibility specific features. But of course, even when I look at more generic features, I'll be doing it with an accessibility twist. So let's get started. One of the biggest changes in iOS 16 is the customizable lock screen. So if you're an Apple Watch user, you'll know about customizable watch faces and how you can switch between different faces with different icons on it. And it's kind of like that, but for your phone. So you can do things like move photo around, change the font on the clock, all kinds of different things, and even tie it in around a theme like astronomy. These lock screens can also tie in with focus profiles. So you'll know about focus, which is kind of like do not disturb, but except you can add more specific things to it. And that was a great thing about iOS 15. Well, now you can create different focus profiles like work, and that can be tied to a specific lock screen. So if I were to create a work profile, I would have a whole lot of apps muted and not sending me notifications. And on my lock screen, I would have things like my next event and today's reminders. So these kind of more important notifications and updates that I need to be getting. And if I want to pick up my phone, I'll just see them right away. I could also create a lock screen for personal use and have things like latest news or sports scores. So it's pretty cool. I like this feature overall. However, as with any new feature, there is some accessibility chaos. I did look at creating a lock screen and found it to be really, really clunky. So the screen isn't hugely clear. Normally Apple is very, very good at kind of guiding you where you need to go and making information very obvious to you. I didn't find that the case with this, unfortunately. Also, if you're a VoiceOver user, I have found that VoiceOver loses focus quite a lot. It's kind of hard to know what you're doing, and sometimes if you hit the close or done button, you sort of get taken back to a different screen, but then not. So it's kind of very confusing because you're like, oh, am I still editing this thing or not? So I didn't find it the best experience, if I'm being honest. Having said all this, I'm using an iPhone SE 2 to test it on, so the 2020 model. That is not a super resource efficient phone, I guess you could say. It's not the best tech. it's not working as well as my 13 Pro, which is what I use day to day, but I don't want to put a beta piece of software on my main phone, so that could be part of the limitations. So I'm not going to demonstrate that today because I think it's not the most productive thing. I'm not sure, to be honest, a VoiceOver user would get a huge amount out of me demonstrating it, mostly because I can't particularly tell where I am on the screen, so I'm not sure you could either. However, I am excited about it as a feature. I hope that the more of us who provide feedback, these kinds of things will get ironed out, or that Apple will release some really good tutorials and a kind of a step-by-step guide to assisting us with creating these, because they're generally very good at that as well. So I'm hopeful about this feature, even if I'm not convinced that it's working perfectly at present. Messages is also getting an update, so you can edit messages that you've just sent. You can also unsend messages. You can mark a message thread as unread, even if you've read it already. And this is particularly useful if you think, oh, I need to revisit this later. I'm going to forget if I've read it, so I better mark it as unread. It also integrates nicely with Wallet and some changes to Wallet. You can add things like hotel keys to your iPhone's wallet and then share them through your messages. So this is a great way of keeping things like your hotel and car keys secure, but also being able to share them with trusted contacts to make sure that they have access to that information as well. So it's not a super accessibility dense feature or anything like that, but I do think it's a nice one. It's a useful one. It's one that I will personally be looking out for to see how I can integrate that into the things I do. The Health app has had some fairly significant changes. So again, if you're an Apple Watch user, you'll know about fitness and rings. So in iOS 16, something similar is being brought to your phone. You will be able to access the fitness app even if you don't use a watch, which I think is really nice. I am a dedicated Apple Watch user, but for those who aren't, I think it's great to be able to access these features. You can also access some basic exercise tracking, so you will get something like a move ring, although you won't get stand tracking. So you won't be able to track your stand hours, but you will approximately be able to track how many calories you're burning and getting towards your move goal. So that's really nice and a feature that's quite accessible and just works really well if you're a VoiceOver user. Another health app which I'm very excited about is medication tracking. You can add all the medication you take into your health app, and you can do things like setting schedules and reminders. This is something that I really do want to show you guys in action. For some demonstrations, I'll just have my phone in my hand and you'll just be listening in. But for this one, I wanted those of you who can see to be able to see the screen. So I've done a screen recording of adding a piece of medication that I take every day so you can see how that works. And I'll talk about some of the strengths and issues with that after you've watched it.
Health categories. Heading. Activity. Button. Body measurements. Button. Cycle tracking. Button. Hearing. Button. Heart. Button. Medications. Button. Selected. Set up medications. Set up medications. Track all your medications in one place. Set a schedule and get reminders. Your medication information is encrypted and cannot be read by anyone, including Apple, without your permission. Add a medication. Button. Medication name. Heading. Add medication name. Text field. Insertion point at end. Cap V. Cap C. Cap C. O. O. N. N. C. C. E. E. R. R. Y. T. T. A. A. Return. Return. Medication name. Heading. Text field. Is editing. Concerta. Clear text. Button. Next. Button. Choose the medication type. Heading. Common forms. Heading. Capsule. Capsule. Tick. Next. Button. Capsule. Ticked. Add the medication strength. Heading. Strength. Heading. Add strength. Text field. Insertion point at end. Toolbar. Done. 3. 3. 6. 6. Toolbar. Done. Button. Done. Add the medication strength. Heading. Strength. 36. Choose unit. Heading. mg. mg. Tick. Next. Button. mg. Ticked. When will you take this? Heading. Frequency. Every day. If you schedule a time, Health will send you a notification to take your medications. Time of day. Heading. Add a time. Add a time. Next. Button. Frequency. Every day. If you schedule a time, Health will send you a notification. Time of day. Heading. Time picker. 20:05. Button. Collapsed. 20 o'clock. Picker ID. 05 minutes. 20 o'clock. 19. 18 o'clock. 17 o'clock. 16 o'clock. 15 o'clock. 14 o'clock. 13 o'clock. 12 o'clock. 11 o'clock. Next. Cap N. Next. Dismiss pop-up. Dismiss pop-up. Dismiss pop. Dismiss pop-up. 05. 10 o'clock. 09 o'clock. Next. Cap N. Dismiss. 05 minutes. 08 o'clock. Next. Button. Dismiss pop-up. 05 minute. 00 minute. Next. Button. Frequency. Every day. If you schedule a time. Time of day. Heading. Time picker. 8. Button. 1. Text field. Capsule. Button. Add a time. Next. Button. Choose the shade. Heading. Choose the shade. Head. Capsule. Button. Pill. Button. Capsule. Button. Selected. Next. Button. Selected. Capsule. Capsule white and white. Back. Capsule. 36. Capsule white and Concerta. Capsule. 36 milligrams. Capsule. 36. Pink. Button. Peach. Button. Background. Heading. Choose colors. Heading. Capsule white and white. Choose colors. Heading. Left side. Heading. Selected. Gray. Selected. White. Mint green. Button. Back. Selected. Gray. Yellow. Page 2 of 2. Next. Button. Concerta. Heading. Concerta. Capsule. Schedule. Heading. Every day. 8. 1. Optional detail. 8. 1 capsule. Optional details. Heading. Display name. Text field. Text field. Notes. Done. Button. Done. Done. Button. Adjustable. Keypad. Logo. Screen. Today. August 18th. Adjust. Log. Heading. 8. Add. Button. Capsule white and white. Background dark blue. Concerta. As needed medications. Add. Button. Your medications. Heading. Edit. Button. Capsule white and white. Background dark blue. Actions available. Concerta. Action. Capsule. Action. 36 milligrams. Actions available. Schedule. Every day. Add medication.
So what you'll have probably noticed there is that the focus can get lost a little bit, particularly when we're in these really, really big screens like medication shape, for example, where there's so many options and you're tapping on one and it will kind of move you around, but then if you touch the screen, you end up somewhere else. So that's not ideal, but overall it works really well. And talking of shape and colour, that's a really interesting feature. So not only are you adding the medication, name and the dose and how often you want to take it, you can also add details about the medication. You know, what colour is it? What type of medication is it? Is it a tablet? Is it a gel? And this is great. Whilst I have absolutely no idea what colour my medications are, I cannot see colours, so it is an irrelevancy. I think this is a great feature, particularly for those who are low vision. So if you're someone who struggles to manage your medication, maybe you struggle to read your medicine bottles, you find yourself opening up your magnifier on your phone all the time just to read them, actually this is great because you could set reminders for each type of medication and you could set information such as the colour of it. So if you're able to see the colour and your medications are different colours, you'll then get that reminder as your phone tells you that you need to take your medication. So this is excellent for people with low vision or with multiple disabilities such as memory loss or cognitive impairment. It's so helpful, and whilst it isn't specifically an accessibility feature, I think it's going to be really, really useful, and for VoiceOver users as well. Other medication tracking apps I've found in the past have not always been all that accessible, so it's really great to see that this is coming to the health app. I can now view my medication in with all my other health information and also see things like how often am I taking it? Am I remembering to take it every day? Am I taking it on time? And all that kind of information. Whilst you can add medications like mine, which you take on a fixed schedule, you can also add medicines that you take as needed. So things like pain relief, which you may not take every single day, but if you're someone who gets migraines, you may take them then. And this is really useful again because you can look at those medicines and see, for example, how often you've taken them over the last 28 days. I personally have an absolutely horrible memory, so I couldn't tell you how often I've taken something like pain relief over the last month. So being able to track that and integrate it with the rest of my health data is very useful, and it's so important that that information is now accessible. And now let's move on to some access-specific changes. Some really cool things have been added in iOS 16, and one thing that there's been huge buzz about in the blind community is the new VoiceOver voices, particularly a voice called Eloquence. So Eloquence is a speech synthesizer, and many blind people have been using it on their computers for years. We haven't had access to it on the iPhone, but now we do. So let's take a look at enabling that on your phone. So I'm going to show you. So let's unlock my phone. And I'm going into settings. And accessibility. I realize that I'm going to... I've turned my speech rates down a little bit, so it should be slightly easier to follow for some of you. So you go into VoiceOver. And speech. So here it says voice Samantha. So Samantha is the voice I'm currently using. But let's double tap here and open up these settings. So I've got English UK.
Daniel, Eloquence, Jamie, Kate, Oliver, Serena, Siri, Stephanie, English, Australia, heading.
And you'll notice all these names of voices that it's talking me through. And one of those is Eloquence. But I have never particularly enjoyed using Eloquence in British English, so I'm going to find it in American English.
English, India, English, Ireland, heading, English, Scotland, UK, English, South Africa, heading, English, US, heading.
So what you can probably hear is it saying English and then various different countries, and so I'm skipping through headings.
Agnes, Alex, Allison, Ava, Bruce, Eloquence, Eloquence.
So let's double tap on Eloquence.
English, us, heading, Eddie, Flo, Grandma, Grandpa, read.
So it has different voices. So I'm going to select one called Read.
Shelley, Sandy, Rocco, read. Actions of it.
Selected, read.
And now you can hear it said selected, read, and the voice has changed.
Rocco, Sandy, Shelley, Sandy, Rocco, selected, Grandpa, Flo, Eddie, English, us, Eloquence, English, back button, English, Tessa, button, English, US, heading, Agnes, button.
So this is really exciting, and I'm certainly really happy about it because I have been an Eloquence user since I was 5, I think. So it's been a long time, and I'm very familiar with this voice. It sounds incredibly robotic to sighted people, and they're always like, how can you stand listening to this? But it's probably my favourite speech synthesizer voice ever because I'm so familiar with it. But they've also added some very interesting voices, which we're going to check out now.
Alex, Allison, Ava, Bruce, select, Evan, Fred, Joel, Jr., Andy, David, Vicky, Noel, Ralph, Samantha, Siri, Susan, Tom, Vicky, Victoria, Zoe, Novelty, heading.
So there's a heading called Novelty.
Albert, Bad News, Bells, button.
And let's try the voice called Bells.
English, us, heading, Bells.
So, captioning this is going to be an absolute nightmare. I just realised I'm going to have to caption this video and I have no idea how to caption what just happened. So as the screen reader is speaking, there are also bells chiming along with it, and the pitch changes in accordance with the bell. I don't even know how to describe this. It's completely ridiculous. I don't really understand what the point is, but why not? Why not have fun with our access settings? Now I've got to have the fun of going back and changing out of this voice. So I am skipping through the list of voices. Okay, so that said Eloquence.
Selected. Read.
Oh, and mercifully, we are back to the voice that I like using.
Grammar. Flow. English.
So we're back in a safe voice.
Echoes in. Satisfy item. Speech.
But I think that's exciting. You know, even though we can kind of laugh at that voice, the bells one, and say, well, that's ridiculous. It's great that there's so much more choice. There's also been a whole load of other languages added, including Catalan is definitely one of them. I cannot remember the full list. I think there's about 20 new VoiceOver languages. So voices that go with those languages. So that's absolutely excellent. You know, expanding these offerings so that more and more blind people can use it is only a positive thing. So I'm very, very happy to see that and super excited that I now get to read in my favourite voice. There are more features designed specifically for blind and visually impaired people, and one of those features is door detection. So you will be able to use the magnifier app on your phone, which you can access in Control Center, to detect doors. Your phone will tell you how far you are away from the door, whether the door is open or closed, and how to open it, if it has a handle or a button or something like that. It should also be able to read text by the door, for example, the door number, as well as symbols such as a wheelchair access symbol. This is a really exciting feature, and I would definitely be making a separate demonstration of it. It is only available on phones with LiDAR capability, so that is things like the iPhone 13 Pro. So the Pro models should have this available. So my demonstration phone does not, so I will have to wait until iOS 16 is officially released to demonstrate that. But I think it's a good feature. It should as well integrate within things like maps if you're using your phone for directions. And another thing about maps is that you should be able to get audible cues to tell you which way to face in order to start the route. So that's particularly helpful for blind people. So I'm excited to see that out in the wild and test it out. There are also a whole load of updates to Apple Books coming in iOS 16. These mainly center around visual content, so you'll be able to add different themes. You will be able to change bolded text. You will be able to change things like line spacing and text size. Whilst this isn't hugely helpful for myself or those of us who are totally blind, it is great for people who are VoiceOver users and have some vision, or those who don't use VoiceOver but are large print users exclusively. The more customizable features, the better, and it's great to see some coming to books that are going to help people who have low vision. You can now use Hey Siri to not only... my watch started as soon as I said that. So you can use those words to answer a call, but also to hang one up. And that's really, really useful because typically you've only been able to use it to answer a call. So if your phone's ringing, you can say the magic words and then tell her to answer the call, but you haven't been able to hang up beforehand. So now you can, and whilst this isn't a feature that was necessarily designed with blind people in mind, I think it's great. Some blind people really struggle to find the buttons on the phone when they're on the phone. Some people have dexterity issues which prevent them from using some of the touch gestures, and so to be able to do that, I think it's really, really useful. It's also great for people who are new to blindness and who aren't so familiar with VoiceOver or feeling too confident, but they can now use those words to end their calls, which will prevent them from being kind of stuck on the phone waiting for the other person to hang up. Those of you who have AirPods will know that when you're wearing your AirPods, your notifications are spoken out to you. Now, that hasn't been possible when you've just got your phone on speaker, but now it is. So you need to go into accessibility and scroll across all the way past VoiceOver until you find a heading called General. Go to where it says Siri. And we need to scroll through all these settings
Siri will always listen for Hey Siri. Listen for Hey Siri. Show apps behind Siri. Allows the current actor announce notifications on speaker. On.
Until you hit announce notifications on speaker and toggle that to on. And now when you get a notification through, Siri should read it out through the phone's speaker. This is great. Again, it's another feature that, whilst it's an accessibility feature, it wasn't designed specifically for blind people, but I can see plenty of uses for it. There are times when I've got my phone out and I can't have my AirPods in, but I also can't necessarily pick it up to take a quick look at it, if my hands are full. So being able to have my notifications read out is great. I also think it's really, really useful, again, for people who are new to blindness and who don't feel so confident using VoiceOver and all of its gestures, so they can get their notifications read out, they know what's happening, they're able to access many more things. You can also modify things like how long Siri will wait until it listens to you speaking. So after you say the words to activate it, usually it shuts off quite quickly, but if you're someone who maybe speaks a little slower, you can extend that time, so it'll be listening for a greater amount of time. So that is also a really nice new feature coming in the accessibility settings. There are really so many changes and new updates coming. I've barely scratched the surface, but I hope this has given you a little look into some of the things that will be coming to us all very soon. I'll be making separate videos for the changes to Mail, iPhone's email app, to Home, and to Freeform, which is a new app for project planning and collaboration. So look out for these videos where I'll be looking at these apps in much more depth, doing more hands-on demonstrations where you'll really be able to hear VoiceOver in action and see what's going on the screen. This was really a very, very quick tour of some of the very big settings and some of the very small ones. But there is, of course, so much more that I want to look at. If you do have specific questions or requests, I would be more than happy to take them. Please leave a comment to give me any feedback. And of course, I always ask you, but please subscribe to my channel. The more subscribers I have, the more features I have access to, and the more content I will be able to bring you in future.